You're listening to Real Talk All Sport with Nathan Blake and Dav Matheson. If you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Mr. B Productions-WAL, and you can see us there, so that's all good. If you're listening on Spotify, you're listening on Real Talk All Sport podcast. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok too with Real Talk All Sport, where we cover all kinds of sport, lots and lots of football, but we do a bit of MMA, we do a bit of boxing, a bit of rugby league as well, a bit of American football, and hopefully other sports as well. With got some guests coming
like
in
Rory,
future.
the golfer.
Oh, so
the
a bit
Masters.
of golf as well. Brilliant for him to actually as well.
Yeah, big shout out to him. I loved it. One of the best sort of final rounds I've ever seen.
Football is our main thing, but we can talk about a lot. You even popped round the other day to mine and you came for a cuppa and you were there for about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
My mum was there like, is Nathan been here all this time? I'm like, yeah, he's just come for a cuppa. We've had a nice old natter.
Yeah. I watch your netball as well.
Yeah.
Netball.
Nice.
Tennis is on at the moment. So
Just no ice hockey.
yeah. No, well, we don't get ice hockey. It's one of the things that doesn't get
Televised.
televised. The basketball's been unreal, by the way. Watch the basketball.
Yeah, basketball, I hate to say it.
Timberwolves, I think they lost last night.
Basketball doesn't do it for me.
No?
It just doesn't do it for me.
No.
I can't say for why. It's too, and I know this is evidently basketball. It's too back and forth. It's you go up, you shoot it, get it in, and then it comes back. I'm like, I get.
You want less scoring.
I want less. Yeah. There's too much scoring.
There's too much doing the right thing.
Yeah. So last week we talked about your players in the Premier League that have impressed you the most, top 5.
Yeah. So let's put it like this. We've had this discussion. We said we draw up. I drew up mine. Like I've probably got about 20 to be honest with you, but it was difficult, and it's people I've left out. Like I don't see like one player having a sort of bet than the other. At the end of the day, I've just picked. Like I'll be honest with you, like Isak, my final pick, was someone else. Like 10 minutes before I said it, it was just like
it was before the show. There was a lot of people you had to pick from.
But what we haven't done is have your top 5. So come on, give me your, because you've gone more. Have you gone more traditional?
I think I have a bit. So out of my top 5, there was 2 that we shared in common. One was Isak. I think undoubtedly just had a brilliant season. Is a real breath of fresh air when it comes to strikers. Yeah. I think they signed him for a real big fee in hope that he would be this big striker, and he has proved to be that.
Delivered, yeah.
But I also think it's just, as you say, we talked about his movement, for being a tall guy. Doesn't look like the most muscly person in the world, but also had strength. And I think as a player, he's just been fantastic this season.
It's like he's tall, but you don't see him coming.
Yeah.
He's gonna ghost in behind you and where have you. He's almost like silent in his
it's not
movement.
necessarily like he's big, but not a scary big.
Yeah.
So I put him in there. Also the other person we had in common, which is I think is really interesting, was Elliot Anderson. Yeah, I really rate him. When he was at Newcastle, I always thought he was a brilliant player. You say he's like a retro player. Yeah, which I think is really cool. I think his story of moving is brilliant. He could have stayed at Newcastle, but he thought it was the right to move to Forest, and it's been the right decision, and people realise how good he is. So I'm a big fan of him, and the fact that he was signed as a left winger, can play cam,
I don't see him as a left winger mind.
CDM. That was kind of where he started off. And well, evidently you don't see him as a left winger, and neither does Nuno. No. So it's kind of right.
But so give me one of the 3. I'm really interested because we haven't discussed who we were going to put.
One of the 3, I put Sandro Tonali. So still from Newcastle. Okay. He's impressed me. And the reason for that was he had so long out of the game. Yeah. I thought, considering he moved from Italy to the UK, took the UK by storm. Brilliant player. And then obviously with everything that happened,
problems,
had to come out of the game. And I thought he came in so quickly for him then to be taken out of the Prem and then be out for months and months and months and months. I thought to get that momentum back must feel near impossible to do. And in my head, I thought I wouldn't be surprised if he could never reach that level, because you've got all that going against you in that time off. That you need that game time. But he's a top player. He's got an engine on him. He's got that little bit of...
He can pick a pass.
He can pick a pass. He can run. He's got that little bit of like...
Yeah, needle. Yeah, which you like.
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
And so I think
he can finish.
And he's brilliant player.
Yeah.
And so he's got it all. And I think considering he had all that time out, that's what's really impressed me. So he goes in there.
Nice.
My number 4, Kirkes for Bournemouth, the left back.
Yeah. I can't see him staying there. I hate to say it, Bournemouth fans, but I can see him being at... I hope he stays out of London. I'd love to see him at like a Newcastle or a Liverpool. I think that could be, because I mean they're talking about Robinson. I think it could be. I think he could be a great player for Liverpool. Yeah,
I think he's a brilliant player, and it is. I feel like we're in an age where the left backs aren't necessarily shining at the moment.
Yeah,
you've got some like I love a good defender. But you've got a lot of the centre backs are slowly going into their territory at the moment. Like you're seeing like at Arsenal, you're seeing at Newcastle.
Yeah.
Like left.
Well, Tierney's leaving, isn't he? Tierney.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
if
he's leaving this year.
So you've got him, but you've got Calafiori, who
as a centre back, left back
going there. You've got Dan Burn, who's gone there. Benjamin White's gone. I'm like, they're kind of taking their territory.
Yeah.
And a good fullback is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And so there's been lacking a little bit in kind of the left back areas. And I think he's done a really good job for such a young player in a fun Bournemouth team. It reminds me a little bit like when they had Charlie Daniels at left back, who started off as a left winger, moved him back, and it was like, oh, he's left back, but he's fun.
And
so I think he, to me, looks like what a fullback should be.
And he's got an engine. He gets up and down. He gets assists. He'll get on the end of stuff. I think he's got a couple of goals this season as well. So he's, but he's come as a surprise. I think he's a great signing. Again, it's all about recruitment, isn't it, Dav? You know what I mean? Get your recruitment right, and you're halfway there.
We talk about Bournemouth and Brighton all the time, and that's a prime example of it.
Yeah.
And as I say, getting a good left back, they're like gold dust. So he'll be worth a few bob as well.
Absolutely.
He's really impressed me. And then number 5 that I've gone for that's impressed me is Morgan Rogers at Aston Villa.
Oh, now see, I think he is like outrageous. You forget like he's just come from the Championship almost, right? Because he's so good. He's not good. He's for me, if you went, like this season, Phil Foden or Morgan Rogers, I'd say there's not even a contest.
Yeah.
Like Phil Foden can't be in an England squad before Morgan Rogers.
And I think, and I love a bit of a storyline when it comes to the players. I love a success story. And I think with him, as you say, he's come from the Championship not that long ago.
Yeah.
And just gone, it's just Morgan Rogers. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And you look at like the Ramsey brothers who were just before him, they kind of had a big hype and a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And they had a run on him in that club and team and what have you,
And so that was a kind of a pressure and something that he would have to work his way into that squad. And also just in a place where there's been a lot of talk and heat on kind of Watkins and Marcus Rashford, and a lot going on with the debate of who should be where, who should be playing, who should be starting. But it hadn't phased him. Asensio, all these players. But there's been all this like noise in Aston Villa.
Big John Duran.
That was a lot of noise that could have halted a lot. But
He's rose above it.
He's just cracked on.
Yeah.
And I really rate that. And
Yeah.
I think it's shown a real character to, whilst all this, like some good, some not so good noise in Aston Villa that's been going on, he's just been Morgan Rogers, cracked on it, and been, as you say, an unbelievable player.
And gets better. I think, like, the amount of games and his physicality and his size, I thought he looks like he kind of probably run out of juice around about April. But no. Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup, you name it, he was boom, boom, every 3 or 4 days, there again. So credit to him, brilliant professional, and excellent, great choice, Dav, I have to say. I'm kind of jealous I didn't pick him myself.
And there's also not been much chat about him moving.
Yeah.
So it just looks like he's just going to crack
Settled.
on. And just crack on with what he's doing. And a centre attacking mid at 6'2"-ish. I love it.
Yeah.
So
He's got that Zidane about him, isn't he?
Yeah.
That big,
Too
physical,
right.
Can do it. He's at, I think he's still at AC Milan, ex-Chelsea boy.
AC Milan, Chelsea.
bloody
Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I'm kind of jealous I didn't put him myself. I just think, I think that the great thing is, I honestly think there's it's gonna change. I don't think Man City will win 4 in a row again. I think there's too many teams now. I'd love to see Villa win the Premier League. I'd love to see, people go, Leicester won it 2015-16.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd love to see Villa win the Premier League. I'd love to see Brighton in the Champions League. I'd love to see, Brentford in the European Cup. I'd love to see Newcastle win the Premier League. You want that sort of change, right? You don't want it to be the same thing week in, week out, or year in, year out, season in, season out. You want that change. And, you've now got, like I keep saying, you've probably got 7, maybe 8 clubs who are all sort of vying for the top.
Almost all of them outside of Manchester and London as well.
Right. Well, if we had said, it's going to come down to the last game and Man City are going to need a point to qualify for Europe, for the Champions League, you would have said, jump back. No matter what, if they don't finish top, they'll be second.
Yeah.
If they're not second, it's almost impossible to see them outside third. They've had to fight all the way to the last game of the season, and it's still not guaranteed.
You're right.
Right?
I thought they'd walk it once again.
When
as lots of people did.
So it's been a wonderful season, and I hope it continues. Credit to those clubs in the Premier League, your Newcastles, your Forests, your Brentfords, your Brightons, your Fulhams, your Bournemouths. The way they've run and recruited. There's bigger clubs than some of them outside the Premier League that are not going to get nowhere near them for the next 10 years. You look at someone like Leeds United who'll go up against Sheffield United, Sheffield Wednesday. Huge clubs. Cardiff City gone down a league.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I would say you don't waste time patting yourself on the back if you're up there in the boardroom or wherever running things. Once you won a cup or you won a league, celebrate for 24 hours, 48 hours max, and then get back to work.
And that's a nice segue into what we're going to be chatting about.
Do we have to? Can we just skip Pat B and...
I would love to. I'd love to skip past it and maybe put a pause on this until next year.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully.
yeah.
So it has to be said, Cardiff City, team that I've grown up watching, team that I've seen. I think the first game I ever saw them play was against Luton Town.
Yeah.
I've seen them through 2 promotions to the Premier League, seen them through 2 relegations, seen them sign some brilliant players in that time, and I've loved being a Cardiff City fan. This is the first time in my lifetime that I've seen them go down division, and now Cardiff City will be in League One next season, which is wild.
And Wrexham will be in the Championship.
We are the 3rd best team. Well, Merthyr fans might actually disagree, to be honest.
In Wales.
Yeah. We are the third team currently in Wales, and we're in League One. And just obviously a rebuild is going to have to be.
I don't think a rebuild gets it done.
Because we've had the struggle has been in terms of a footballing perspective, like, and they will go down to it is like there's roots to it that is bigger than just a Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely.
But like in terms of footballing, we had these players, all reasonably big players. We still got them at the moment. Reasonably big players, deemed very good championship level. Some possibly beyond that. And do you know what? I'll say it actually, is here in the studio not long ago, Anwar Al Ghazi was in here.
Yeah.
And I met him. I'll be honest, really, really lovely guy. Really kind, gentle, gave me a lot of time. And I was chatting to him. He said, he went, oh, it's a shame because, and this was long before we were in like relegation. He went, we've got brilliant players. It's just not clicking. And that was the whole season. And it just then...
You need to fit... So I've been saying for about 4 months we'll go down, right?
Yeah.
I've been saying for about 3 years, like, keep toying with it and it's going to happen, right? But this season, I got to around about Christmas and into January, and it started to dawn on me, we've got no physicality. The players that you could say like the mix it a bit were Gutas, you'll have it with you.
Yeah.
NG, you'll have with you. Siopis, who's gone, who put his foot in.
Yeah.
And Riles, who was injured.
Yeah.
Now take those out, and then what you've got is a very nice team. Good footballers, good players, you know. But in that sort of championship, people go, oh, it's different than the Premier League. It is. It's just that the end qualities of the Premier League are higher. Do you know what I mean? So you're coming up against strikers like your Agueros, your Ollie Watkins. Yeah, I know Aguero's retired, but you understand what I mean? Over the years, your Thierry Henry's, you're coming up against those. So the striker in the championship might be a bit lower, but he's not meaning to say like a Morgan Rogers can't get there, like a Chris Woods can't get there and become sort of well-established Premier League players, right? I think what's happened with Cardiff is they've signed too many of the similar sort of type of player, and their recruitment has been absolutely woeful. And that's no disrespect to any player. I wouldn't dig out a player and say, oh, like he's been terrible.
It's also not their fault.
Yeah, you get signed, you take the opportunity, but you've got too many like central midfielders. You've got a lot of similar. Yeah. Right. So if I said to you, okay, who's the leader of the midfield, as in the boy who will put his foot in and start like an Anderson we just mentioned, right? Left winger, turn centre midfielder.
Yeah,
but you're not bullying that kid.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter who you are, what team you're playing for. Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester United, Man City, Liverpool. You're not bullying him. You're not getting on top of him physically.
You're Aaron Gunnison.
Right. You're not getting on top of these players physically. Right? They will take you to the very end and have a war with you. We lacked that. And then what I did see is then, like, at times where there was an urgency needed, that, and you can still lose, but you got to have that urgency, that fight, sort of, that aggression. Like, I was watching the games, doing the games a week, 2 weeks later, and I was thinking, it's almost like they're not aware of what's coming their way.
Yeah, lack of
urgency. And then they fell into a relegation battle.
Yeah.
And I said, once they're in it, they won't get out of it. And then they got out of it and had like I think a 6-point gap at one point. I think they won at Blackburn or something like that. I'm sure it was. And they had like a 6-point gap. And that evaporated in like I think it was 10 or 12 days. It was down to a point or something like that. And then it was gone. And then they went back in. And once they were in, they were never coming out, mate.
Yeah.
Because there was too many. And players, I tell you, players will find any reason not to sort of be responsible and accountable. You know, or the kit is too tight, or it wasn't water, or the food after the game, or the coach we travelled on, or you know, the manager, you know, the coaching. We do. That's why the footballers, I'd say we are so spoiled and given everything. It's because ownership now will just remove anything that they can point to as a reason why, because they will quickly point to it.
And you talk about physicality, and from my perspective as of a fan, and I get, you mentioned we do have some physical players, but they were almost like picky physical, if you get what I mean. As in, they would maybe pick up a yellow card for certain things or get a bit scrappy, but not that right enforce bang.
Aggression.
Do you know what I mean? Like I when I think of my time being a fan and I think of that kind of player, I think of your Aaron Gunnison. I think of, do you remember Leon Barnett?
Yeah.
Like Leon Barnett, just right, no nonsense, bang. Ben Turner would time a tackle, get the ball away, and work in that sense really well. And you had those players, like you met Nortons as well from Australia. They just, when needed to, a time tackle, bang, good, and it would be like clean aggression. Whereas sometimes the aggression we do have, one, isn't consistent, two, when we do it, it's instant yellow for something that's like a picky, as opposed to
petulant.
Yeah, exactly. that's what I mean. And I tell you, like, and I hope it makes sense.
Because, it does, yeah.
But just from I'm trying to think of any other players that remind me of it. But
well, let me give you an example the other way. So when I played at Cardiff, you know, like Ian Rogerson was the captain going back, right back, and I was just coming into the team as an apprentice. And then I remember under Len Asher's, we had okay team, but then under Eddie started to build a team. And he brought in we had like good players already, but brought in Nicky Richardson, who was a really good midfielder. And he brought in Paul Ramsey. Now, as a kid, I used not hate as in, I want to kill him, but he used to do my head in, right? Me and Dave and Sil, we used to but he was like the big brother that you just does your head in all the time, like demanding of you all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was at that point where I didn't want to be like a main man and, you know, you're the reliable sort of source of goals and assists and what have you. You know, you kind of just, you know you can do it, I want to do it on my terms sort of thing. Well, Paul Ramsey wouldn't allow you. Pena wouldn't allow you. You had to do it all the time. And I would say that was a great learning curve for me, that I was able to then lift my game to play at the level which was consistently good. And then that allowed me then to get the move. So I'm not saying like Paul Ramsey got me the move, but what I'm saying is that leadership and that drive. Like you wouldn't say Paul Ramsey was the greatest player, but what he was a great leader. Right? And it's not until I grew up a bit more, I understood like because he would kick your backside all the time, like, and like half the time he didn't know what he was saying because he would speak so quick in his Irish accent. But he would be backing at you.
But it's not accountable.
But he's driving you, right? Because he used to get me so vexed. I used to think I'm going to take it out on his fullback, right? So I can't take it out on my teammate. It used to get me so fucking, leave me alone, fucking shut up. And then I think, right, I'm just going to run through this kid. I'm going to torture him. Like, I'm going to absolutely take all my frustrations out on him, which he obviously knew.
Yeah.
It's a psychological thing. It's a switch. But then he would then back at, not just me, everybody. It doesn't matter who you are. He's like, if you're playing level 6, he doesn't accept lower than an 8. I would say when we got promoted in 93, people don't point to him and go, oh, like, what a unbelievable goals he's got. Like, it's almost like unsung.
Yeah.
Right? He's that.
Yeah. A leader who got the best out of him.
Yes, out of himself and his teammates. And, just a great captain. I seen him down at the ground a couple of weeks, the last couple of games. They had like a captain's day and he was there. But they don't have anything like that. I keep likening us to Man United, Cardiff City, because my boys are Man United fans. And I say, Man United, you've got the same problem we got. All right? You haven't got a Roy Keane.
Yeah.
I've been on the pitch with Roy, and I'm telling you, to like him or loathe him, I love him. I think he's great as a player and a pundit. I think, I think 31, 13 titles. Listen, take Roy Keane out of, if he won 6 or 7, take him out of that squad and don't replace him, you probably cut that in half at best. Because he would drive on the pitch. He wouldn't accept, wouldn't matter. I remember playing against Blackburn and John Curtis was playing. My old mate from Blackburn, he came to Blackburn Rovers after. But John was a right back young lad. And I just remember Keane just backing at him like, it doesn't matter. You're in the first team playing for Man United,
Yeah.
And I know it's different levels, right? But what I'm saying is, those leaders are needed. It's no coincidence that, most teams who go on and are very successful, right, have got that sentiment. Man City have had it time and time again, right? Plus another little skillful player next to whoever's been in there, right? You look like when Rodri ran out, the effect. You look at the players before Rodri. You look at Man United, you look at Liverpool, you can go back to the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. Teams who are successful always have that sort of general in that central midfield.
And I guess with Cardiff then, does it come down to we never quite replaced Aaron Gunnarsson?
I would probably say that's a good shout, because I don't think there's been a central midfielder. We've had better players.
Yeah.
Right? But we haven't had better leaders. Right? We haven't had players who, it doesn't matter who you are. I'm going to go up against you one-on-one. I don't care if you're playing for Arsenal and I'm playing for Cardiff City. On my day, I'm as good as you. So they haven't had that. And that then was across the squad, though. For me, Raul's being injured, who was a person who could, put your foot in. Siopis, you get rid of. And Gutas is in and out, right? Probably our best defender with Chambers, I would say. And you've got to accept players are going to make mistakes and consistency, and you've got to. Going in and playing a few games and being withdrawn, it just undermined. You just messing with players' confidence. So I think Riza, I always say give everyone a chance because you just never know. I'm not one of these that says, "Oh, experience, you need experience." Experience, of course, it helps, but how many times do we see in sport the young gun come through and just obliterate, right? Luke Littler. Everyone going when he got to the final and lost the final. That was him. That was the top of it. And he comes back the season later and absolutely destroys everybody. Right? So, age ain't nothing but a number, really and truly. But Cardiff need. I don't know where they're going to go. I've read some that one of the world's biggest agencies are involved. I'm going to be taking over. It's a good luck. It's just another layer of people that not going to take responsibility and accountability if it goes pear-shaped. If it goes well, they're all at the forefront, but if it goes poorly, the finger blame, the oh, well, we haven't got this, we haven't got that, and, that'll all start. But more inclined, personally, I'm more worried about them staying in League One than they are getting out of League One. Because it's a culture shock, again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
And recruitment's going to be massive.
Yeah. Because it is that massive part when you start going down the lower leagues, it is that mix of league experienced players and young guns. If you're in that middle, it's really tough.
Because you've got less, what happens is League One it's a funny league. A lot of the players in League One who are highly skilled get picked up to big championship clubs, right? Or lower league Premier League clubs. So what you've still got, like, I watched like Charlton, who did they play in the semi-final? Wickham was there?
Yes, yeah.
Wickham popped them off the park. Charlton got through, but Nathan Jones' Charlton playing a very old school, sturdy type of football, crossing the ball from 40 yards, long crosses and all that. Wickham were popping through the lines. And to get to play in the Championship and the Premier League, Wickham's is the best style if you're looking long term. What Charlton doing is more appropriate to get out of League One, like Wrexham did. Wrexham didn't play good football, but they got out of League One. And when we're out, right, we can look then and we can start saying, well, we've got a solid base.
Yeah.
Now we'll start adding the pretty, the flowers, you know what I mean, to the grass.
Yeah.
So it's, you look at Cardiff, and at some point, like I would just, like, I hope that the current ownership just sell.
Yeah.
Just move on. Do you know what I mean? It's run its course,
I would like that
sort
too.
of thing. It's run its course. You talk the talk, but never really walk the walk. We've had all different, we're going to learn lessons. We've done this. 10 years, they don't know what we were doing. Now we do. We're going to bring this manager and that manager and this manager and that manager. Never looking at themselves as maybe it's us. Maybe we need some direction and help and understanding and better understanding.
Yeah.
What they talk is just, well, I put money in.
Yeah. We need more. You need more than that. Yeah.
Right? If you think that's it, listen. It's not just Southampton spent a wad full of money when they were in the Premier League. Went down, went up, went back down. I mean, you look at clubs like, you got to take your example from Villas.
Like we were talking about last week, we talked about Villa, Bournemouth,
Brentford,
Brighton, Brentford. Yeah.
Fulham. You got to look at, like, the players they're recruiting. And I think Cardiff's problem, they've now, just like Man United to go in, we need to win the Europa League to get the Champions League to attract the players. Cardiff now you're in a different league. You're not in the champion. So in the Championship, I would have said you could have probably signed, like, so I would have gone and tried to get like a Ryan Yates from Forest, right?
Good enforcer.
And captain material.
Yeah.
Right? I also said there was a time where James Ward-Prowse was on loan somewhere. Then he went to Forest on loan. They wouldn't get in the first team. I was like, right, if you're Cardiff City, go and chuck £4 million because, like I said at the start of the show, certain signings say a lot about what he's doing.
Is he still at Southampton then?
No. He's at West Ham.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, of course he is.
But he's playing now under Potter.
Yeah.
But he wasn't playing under previous managers.
Yeah.
So you take advantage of that because he's going to be low and down. But you also sell him the project of, well, I'm bringing you here because I'm going to Nick Yatesy. I got him for 8 million. I got you for 4 million. You're going to set the culture in our dressing room. Leaders, winners, just me. And
you make me think about Football Manager now.
Yeah,
Maybe I should do that.
Well, Jeffrey Schlupp, I thought, would have been a good signing for Cardiff. Going to that experience, quality. He's gone up to Scotland, but that experience, that quality, that sort of that culture which can help set a new precedent at Cardiff. But Ben Mee,
Yeah.
you know, if you want a centre back who's going to lead, and you know, so you'd have, well, imagine that you'd have Ben Mee, Ryan Yates, and James Ward-Prowse in a 3.
Yeah.
Centre back, 2 centre midfielders, and then you can have a luxury of the Ruben Colwell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those players like Yates and those players like Ward-Prowse can generally help develop.
Yeah.
You know, and then you don't mind if Rambo's out injured a few times because you've got this ready-made young replacement who's going to come through. At the moment, we got, I don't know, I don't know where it's going to go with Cardiff. It literally, but they need to sign. I don't think they'll do it in the League One because I don't think players will drop down from the Premier League for a project in League One. They'll drop down from the Premier League for a project in the Championship, which they're going to build towards a Premier League because it's a realistic possibility.
So we've either got to go grab these guys from the Championship or the guys who know League One well. So like initially my head goes to Alfie May, who was at Cheltenham, nailed it in those 2 leagues, then moved to Charlton, then to Bristol City, who are now obviously in the Championship.
Playoffs,
but he's a little bit older now, so he's got to be kind of 30s way, but he knows that league so well that someone like him would be fantastic. Because also, you know you're going to get goals out of him in that league.
Yeah. Cameron Humphreys, he's another good player. So this is going to sound crazy, but you want a goal scorer, right? This is what you need. I'm not talking League One, I'm talking Championship.
Okay.
In my mind, I'm Championship building the Premier League. Project, right? You know, you got 5 or 6 players that I've mentioned, or 4 or 5 players. Go and say to Danny Ings, we'll give you 35 grand a week.
His contract's up at the end of the season.
Right? We'll give you 35 grand a week, Championship. This is a project, going back to the Premier League. We need guaranteed goals.
He'll score.
Right?
He scores goals, yeah. That's so true.
And the little surprise from abroad, I've always said, the Armenian, I'm sure it's Armenia, Iwu, the midfielder, who I think can play number 10, number 6, number 8, box to box. He's just a brilliant player. Played against us, Wales, and he's the African lad. Very good player. Surprised I haven't seen him picked up anywhere. But go and get him for 2, 3, 4 million quid max.
You're
so
right.
you look at the players we've signed and what we've put out money-wise, transfer fees and wage-wise, you could have got a lot more bang for your buck, I would say. But now it's I would say it's easier to get from the Championship to the Premier League than it is getting out the League One to the Championship. As Wolves found to their detriment for a few years, Leeds found to their detriment.
Bolton is still there.
Huddersfield, Bolton's still there. You know, it's a tough league. Because let's be fair, we all thought Portsmouth go down.
Yeah.
Plymouth go down.
Yeah, I was almost
Oxford
certain
go
with
down.
Plymouth. And Oxford, because they were all ex-Cardiff players.
They definitely go down, right? But yeah. So, you know, that's what I say to people, like where I live in Abergavenny, it's a lot of Cardiff fans. Like over the last 10 years, it's like gone crazy. And, you know, playing golf with boys, they're saying like, what you think, Nathan? I'm like, I don't know why anyone is expecting the same people who've been doing what they've been doing for the last 12 years to now all of a sudden get their thinking cap on, do things better. And listen, it's not a guarantee for success, but, you know, you can look at other clubs and go, well, they've got the manager and their recruitment right, and, you know, but they've got a board who might say, well, I'm the chairman, I don't really know enough about football. Dav, you've been in football 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, what would you do? Give us a word of advice. Because if you're 6 or 7 guys in a boardroom who've never
Just a lot of hot air
played
going.
or yeah. You just put the AC on, man, to cool off.
Oh,
right?
yeah, my word.
Because you really and truly, you're just playing at it. And I say the owners, they've lost, or the owner and chairman, your money you thought you could keep protecting and chucking a bit of money January transfer window. Well, whatever the fortune you had was worth in the championship is just halved. So if your fortune was worth 10 million quid in the championship, it's now worth 3 or 4. Right?
Yeah.
And if you were worried about putting 2 million quid a month in, now you're gonna have to put probably 3 or 4. Because you could only cut the wage bill so far, because they had a massive wage cut bill.
Yeah.
Prior, didn't they? After the sort of the Warnock era, you had high players on high wages. So you had like your Murphys and your Bakunas and people like that. You had Morrisons all on. Then you had that 16 players and the Steve Morrison who left or run out of contract. And what they've done in that, they took the opportunity to cut the wage bill. Probably more in line with where you are as a team. Because if you're paying that sort of wages they were paying, you've got to be top 6.
Yeah.
Right? That's where accountability comes in as a player. You've got no, if I'm paying you 30 grand a week, I expect this to be top of the league. But then I've got to make sure that the players around you and the management structure, the medical department is structured correctly. The academy, the 21s. Yeah. These are things that I don't think their focus is the first team. But I'm like, listen, that's more, you've got to be looking at from about 14 years up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Lamal's playing first team football for Barcelona. It's 15. You might just find one. Do you know what I mean? So you're not going to go. You're not going to get a 12-year-old playing for Barcelona here. Right? It's going to be physically there. But 15, 16, you physically, some boys I remember, like, boys in my school. Right now. Yeah, my boys in my school, like Andrew Pook, man, he had a beard at like 12. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some boys just develop quicker. So, if you've got 14, 15-year-olds who are developed physically, mentally well enough to understand, take on it, you've got to progress them to the first team. That's the whole idea. You know what I mean? But there's a lot that needs to change then. And I just think I don't think the people there now, I hope they prove me wrong.
I hope they prove you wrong too, Nate.
I love you this time next year to be sat here and going,
whoa, that league
straight
team.
back in the championship, right? But, do the same thing, expect a different result is a form of insanity, they say. So,
but I'm looking forward to going back to Doncaster again.
Yeah, back to Donny. 6 hours.
I can show everyone a good time over there.
Yeah. Remember me? Oh, he's back. Just didn't expect you back so soon, Dav. Yeah. So, what do you think? Do you think they'll, as a avid fan, do you look and do you feel confident about next season?
I think until you see
manager signings, all the rest.
Yeah, I think it's hard to make a judgment until August the 31st, because just seeing what kind of players, the philosophy, whether you've gone for championship players to show that precedent of we are better than this, or you've gone for actually we're going to respect this league, we're going to get the guys from League One who know what they're doing, and we're going to push on through with them. But just under this ownership, there is no accountability, and so how do you? I genuinely don't see how you can make a team better under the ownership we do have, because I think the fans, as we said about last week when talking about Crystal Palace, fans are at the core of what you do, and when they're not aligned, it just doesn't work.
And they haven't been aligned for years.
No,
it's almost like I won't accept that from the club. I won't accept that we don't really do anything. It's only this season they've started doing things like the Captain's Day.
Yeah.
Right? There's no association. I always say there's no association with Ninian Park and anything that went on there.
No,
Right?
Yeah, there is no soul. There's that soul.
There's
there.
no soul. There's no soul for the Soul Crew. That's the irony.
Yeah.
Right? Your fans are called the Soul Crew. Do they know that?
Yeah.
Right? And you've lost your soul, basically. And I'll tell you now, until you reconnect that and start to show the respect across the board, if this player played for Cardiff City in the 80s and he scored 30 goals, trust me, there's people in the stands still who will be going, I love that, he's my favourite ever player. Right? And you should be bringing him to the club as a mark of respect. Right? There's too many people at the club at the moment who are very sort of like, it's closed, it's about me. It's like do you know what I mean? It's a capital city. You've got fans all over the world, all over this country of Wales, all over the UK, particularly around South Wales and the city of Cardiff. There's some big people around the world who have, the Welsh people. Like, you never see the rich and the famous. Like, who are the big, like, I'd be saying, like whoever the biggest stars are at Cardiff, I want to get them here.
Yeah.
Maybe not League One.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's true.
But I want the association of, famous people. Because, like, you look at Wrexham, two famous guys have gone in there, and I bet you 90% of people are going, Hollywood,
Yeah.
That'll blow up in a minute. Watch, it'll last 5 minutes.
And then they'll be out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to, one of them to Wrexham, because now they've got the two actors who have, not just, but now they've brought on a billionaire owner, right, or shareholder. So everything is like listen, don't be surprised if Wrexham ain't in the top 6 vying for Premier League football this time next year, right?
And that is something Cardiff should be looking towards.
They should have been in. Look, Cardiff fans should be going to Europe, my friend. Should be having trips in Europe, finishing in the top 6, 7.
That's
getting
so
the
painful to hear.
semi-finals of. Listen, they done it around 2008. Back and forth Wembley, you're back and forth your missus' house. You're back and forth, and things could have been better then. But, it was a great period in the club's history. Now, you're just looking and going where does this nightmare end? When are we going to get the right people doing the right thing for the club, for the fans, for the team, what have you? Because it's a big responsibility. So many people employed, attached to it. I wonder how many people's jobs got cut and what have you because they went down. You don't think of that, do you?
No.
You know what I mean?
And that would have happened. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
physios.
Yeah, whatever. There might be people who cook food or carry kit or whatever, but it's just it's going to be a very, very, very difficult season next season. Listen, hopefully they can get out and they get things right, but
need to give that soul back to the Soul Crew.
I don't think they're aware of the soul. That's the problem. And they've let it go so long now, it's kind of like anything. You'd have to do a lot of work to get that love back from the fans, the owners. Simple as.